By 1947, the British government had become aware that the advent of atomic weapons brought a pressing need to provide the armed forces, the civil defense, and the police with some means of detecting radiation, so that in the event of an atomic or nuclear explosion, safe areas with low radiation levels could be marked out, and similarly, hot spots of high radiation could be isolated. When the United Kingdom's nuclear weapons program was formally sanctioned in January 1947, it was carried out in parallel with the development of a civil nuclear program under the Ministry of Supply at Harwell. However, the atomic energy research establishment was still in its embryonic stage, being established at the recently redundant airfield RAF Harwell, so it fell upon the telecommunications and radar establishment at Malvern, which was best known for its work on defensive and offensive radar, to handle the instrument contracts, as it already had the engineering staff and expertise, and became the first nuclear instrument design authority. EKCO, which had been forging close ties with the TRE, set up a nucleonic laboratory at Malmesbury, which was staffed by a small group of engineers led by Harold Finch, Don Smith and Laurie Taylor, to work on nucleonic instrumentation research and design. They were later joined by Len Lumber. Charles Exton was the chief estimator responsible for negotiation of contract costs with the technical cost branch of the Ministry of Supply at the time when a contract followed to manufacture a large number, believed to be 1,000, of portable dose rate meters. These were compact units, a little larger than the width of a brick, sub-flush handles and controls, and their purpose was to measure the dose rates of persons, equipment and of indoor and outdoor sites. The meters were still being manufactured as late as 1955. Other contracts were subsequently received for small numbers of laboratory instruments such as scalers, counters, rate meters, and amplifiers. At that time there was much pioneering research done into the possible uses of isotopes and its applications, resulting in EKCO designing and manufacturing a range of equipment from detectors to measure material properties, continuous paper thickness measurement at rolling mills, fluid flow measurement in pipelines, monitoring and controlling tape recording plastic film, to the measuring of the moisture content of tobacco as it was fed into cigarette-making machines. In 1955, EKCO won the contract to design and manufacture the control room instrumentation system for the Downray fast breeder reactor, which was being built near Thurso in the north of Scotland. The contract allowed EKCO to move into a whole new field of expertise, and there soon followed a contract to supply the control room instrumentation for Denmark's first nuclear reactor to be built at Riso. The decision was made to move all nucleonic activity from Malmesbury to Southend, where the degree and scope of research, design and manufacture continued to expand. But it had created a chronic lack of space within the existing research and development laboratories, which had to be shared with the commercial teams for television and radio, so in early 1956, work began on building a new 4-story development and engineering block behind the existing R&D building, with an overhead corridor directly linking the two buildings for the ease of staff moving from one to the other without having to go outside. A grand opening ceremony took place on the 3rd of May, 1957 following its completion. The ground floor contained the model shop, and the first floor was occupied by a small coil winding department, an industrial design group, which was part of radio and television, and a buying department. The second floor housed 3 nucleonic development laboratories, managed by W. E. Thompson. These were the Industrial Lab, run by Tim Davis, the Reactor Lab, run by Bob Davis, and the Medical Counting Lab, headed by Jim Streeter. Physicist Doug White ran the Applications Lab with Ernie Hodgson, and physicist Alan Innes worked alongside Jeff Jeffries. Joe Stevens ran a prototype wiring and assembly area on this floor, assisted by Alan Layton, Alfie George, Lily Penn, Glennis Edwards and Betty Short. This group wired and assembled all prototype equipment. Tom Turnage, an ex-policeman, assisted by Peter Pettit, manned the Nucleonic store, which held a range of electronic components and materials used by the labs. The third and top floor contained the drawing office for the Nucleonic section with Jack Knight and senior draftsman Ken Mileson, with other draftsmen including John Worsdale, Fred Palmer, and Paul Andrews. EKCO went on to make history in 1957 by providing a complete nucleonic instrumentation system for Australia's first nuclear reactor, the High Flux Australia Reactor, HIFAR, at Lucas Heights, Sydney. Based on the Dida reactor at Harwell, it was cooled and moderated by heavy water, and the fuel was enriched uranium. It was the first experimental reactor to be exported from the UK, and operated from 1958 to 2007.